How you doing, everybody? I am gearing up here. Got to get myself straightened up. Okay, hey, I'll be right back. I've got to go out and make a few announcements and be right with you. So when you join, let me know if everything sounds okay and the video is okay too. 1 second, I'll be right back. I'll be right there. Hang on a second. Trying to see if maybe I can do both. Hi, Hater. Hey, by the way, those posters you made, Hater, are perfect. I'm putting out some announcements, and here's one. Boom. Be right there. Hey, Richard, how you doing, man? I'll be right with you guys. Hi, Equus. Good to see you. Okay, I think I have lit up enough. There we go. Hey, so what's good and new and weird to talk about? Hi, Caesar. Good to see you. Speaking of weird, thank you for coming. Okay. Guess who's drunk again? Oh, not again, Caesar. Come on. All right. Oh, hey, by the way, too, I was going to tell you guys this. Got on, by the way, people have been saying, I ain't supposed to tell what your watch you have. I've got on my Larique Etude #1, keeping perfect time, beautiful watch. Hope to have another beautiful one too. Hey, how you doing, Brian? Today was one of those days that every time I go to my doctor I could go for any kind of thing. They say, well, we need some blood work. They always need blood work. And then they run it through a computer and it says, you're good here, bad here, so here, and all of this stuff. I hate getting shots. I don't like getting shots at all. But when they take your blood, they got to stick a needle in you like a vampire. And so anyway, so that's done. So my day is made. I won't have to do another one, and I don't know, for a long time, I hope. See, that was shocking news for you. when Roger Dubuis workshop and learned that silicone hairspring was not the reason why, according to whom? You take Caesar. I, well, there were probably more reasons than one, but that was the main thing. There was they don't like to talk about it. I mean, they're very. Remember when they used to, they used to be very open about what was in their movement, and I noticed that even Rolex has been sort of backed off of doing it. They used to have all kinds of information. Now you got to really dig around for it. But who are you going to believe? Me, who has nothing but unfounded speculation, or that article? You can see the choice you have. Oh yeah, they increase production a heck of a lot when they put in the hairspring too. That's the easiest thing to do because they don't have to screw around with it. Um, but good for Rolex. They're still using their parachrome hairspring in most of their watches. They got a few out there. They got one of the best looking watches they have. Unfortunately, does have that miserable hairspring. Okay, enough about that. Uh, what else is new? Oh, hey, I saw something this morning. Um, you know how I'm always pushing the dandy, the Chaumet dandy, as a really nice piece of jewelry, gentleman's jewelry with a watch inside. Well, I saw one today on what was it? Chrono 24. I was about $1,100, and it had the time, the date window in it. There's a lot of chronographs, a lot of dandy chronographs out there, but I like the non-chronographs. This one doesn't have a chronograph. Well priced, cool metal bracelet, everything you like. But of course, I don't know who's going to get. Now, if you need a dress watch, there you go. Okie doke. Hey, Goldfinger, how you doing? I thought I imagined to turn into a silicon rant again. You don't want to. Uh, yeah, I've done my rant for that. I've decided that there's two paths, and as we go down each one, there is one that the other one doesn't seem too relevant to even talk about anymore. So we're on the path of purist purity, for sort of the pure but not virgin watch collectors. Okay. Um, so what else I heard? I was able to sell my watch. I've got I have no idea when I get paid for that, but I'll have enough to get one. There's a couple of them I have already picked out, and I'll show them to you when I get them. They're both really nice, and they're both not a bad price either, really. Considering all things considered, they're very, very nice. Okay, so what do you guys want to talk about? I don't want to talk about having sold watches. That's like selling your kids. Yeah, I heard something today. Weird. I I don't know. Into the Bitcoin, that whole thing. I still think it's a Ponzi scheme, but that's me. I know people have made money on it, and I know they've lost their shirt too. But it's more like really popular now, so there's a lot of Bitcoin out there, and everybody's all excited about it. And then, yeah, boom. But apparently, you can make a lot of money. So there's a lot of people out there with a lot of money, and they're buying watches. Somehow that leads to more watch selling or more watch buying. Something's going on. Maybe they're selling their watches cheap so they can buy Bitcoin. Who knows? Yeah, right. Thoughts on Speak Marin? I tried the ripples and really like it. The ripples, huh? Okay. That is really interesting. If you're familiar with the series that's called The Naked Watchmaker, and it's about deconstructing different watches, that's by Peter Speak. I think he just goes by Peter Speak now. It was Peter Speak Marin, I think, when he was with some gal named Marin, but I'm not even sure about that. But I know that he's got this fantastically good deconstruction. If you want to see what's in a watch and what they're made of, take a look at that, any one of those articles. He also has a video for sort of on watchmaking. The problem with his video, for me anyway, there's some kind of background music that sounds more like, in a scary movie, somebody's creeping up on you. So I really like his stuff and everything about it. The movements in the Peter Speak watches, or I'm not sure about. They're called, I guess, Speak Marin watches. Some of them are, I think, are really good, and others aren't. He was a member of the AHCI, the Independent Watchmakers Group. So he must have done something really good. And then he lost his, somehow, like a lot of really top watchmakers, he got forced out of the Speak Marin Watch Company, which now is on their own. And I don't know if they're doing anything particularly good or not. But I have a lot of respect for Peter Speak Marin. Hey, Richard. Bitcoin has echoes with tulip mania and the South Sea bubble. Not to mention the Swedish Swedish match guy, or the Chaumet brothers trying to corner the diamond market. It's going to work out. No, I tell you, there was this one guy, he's got a TV show and he's always blabbing off on what to buy. He said, don't buy Amazon when you could have picked it up for a song. Oh, no. Oh, there are a lot of things that did we know now? Did we know then what we know now? I had bought as many FP joints as I got my mitts on before the pandemic, had I known then what I know now. I don't know. Buy high and sell low. God, that's a great idea. Brian, I'm glad one of you guys has some sense. Oh, wait a minute. It's the other way around. Buy low and sell high. No, my advice for watch collection is buy a watch you will wear, really enjoy, and don't sell it. And hang on to it and enjoy it. But when you run out of money, sometimes you might have to sell a few. So I don't know, maybe it's, I don't know. Buying and selling watches as something, as an investment, I just don't know. I knew this guy who used to invest in movies. And the reason he did it, at one time, one of the most successful exports that the United States had was movies. They brought in more foreign currency than anything. And so because they did that, the government gave them some kind of really good deal. And so if you invested in movies, even dogs, you could make money. But then something happened and it didn't work anymore. I knew this guy who was a producer. There was an old TV show called Cagney and Lacey, and he and his wife and I were on the same. We were on a publishing marketing association board, and I talked to him one day about investing in movies, and he says, "Don't do it." go for oil wells or anything, but not movies. Hi, Watch Mike Do. How you doing? How are things in Phoenix? We got relatives in Phoenix, so that's always have a tie to Arizona. Used to live in Tucson. That's a fun place. Cold morning, huh? Tell, yeah, what it is down to 70 or something. You guys have cold out there. I remember when I lived in Tucson, we wouldn't go swimming if it was under 100. We thought it was too cold then. Back in the day, 47. That'll cool things down a little. Okay, come on. Let's talk about watches. What's new? What watchmaker? How many of you know anything about and Andreas Steller's watches? Anybody know anything about them? Butterfly movements. Yeah, yeah, Hater, that's right. He's got this butterfly papillon. It's got this, yeah, something that like this that forgot what it does, and I think but it was a really an interesting innovation. Um, he's got some other things though. I mean, he's another member of that. His stuff. He's got some watches that I really like. He has one, you probably heard of it, called the Sirna, Sarna. Now, most of his watches are like, they go up north of 100,000 Swiss francs. The Sirna was sort of like F.P. Journe's Chronomet Blue. It was an entry level at 20,000. This is before the back in the day when he first came out with it. And I think the Sirna is the same thing with Andreas Steller's work. And because the other stuff is way up there. But that's one that I thought was really interesting. There's another one I really like, but I'm not sure how to pronounce it. It's one of the Roger Dubuis, and it's called Monesque or Monesque, something like that. That's another watch I like. And let me see what else. Oh, not to mention that dandy. I'm always tempted to go buy that dandy with the steel bracelet and the date on it. $1,100. I know in watch money that's nothing, but in real money it is. How you doing? What's new in fracking Gulch, Lee? Hi, Steve. Curious, what was your first mechanical watch? When did you buy it? And what is the story? Well, I don't have it anymore. The first luxury mechanical watch I got was a Patek Philippe Calatrava. And I had that for a number of years, but it always was a little small, and so I sold it. Um, the So that was really I mean, that was the first luxury one. My first mechanical watch when I was a kid, I used to work in a drugstore, had a job in a drugstore after school, and I used to buy Timexes. I'd buy a Timex watch. They were great. You wind those things up, and they kept really good time, and then they'd break. And when they broke, they didn't get fixed. I just got another Timex. The first really fancy one on that level at that time was an Accutron. When I got an Accutron, I thought I'd got the best watch in the world. So, you know, I think we all have different routes we've gone, and some of us, we're still on the same route, and others of us have gone to different things. I've gone much more to the movement and movement maker than I was before. Like my first luxury sports was the Basseron Constantin, but with a Girard-Perregaux movement. Well, they always say, "Well, we have a Girard-Perregaux movement, but we had to fix a whole lot of things in it." Probably true, but it's sort of it sounds like, oh, okay, sure you did. Lee, so size does matter. Does to me. I mean, I don't want a watch that's really small. Like, I mean, these things are like, I think my Patek Philippe was like 32 or something like that, 31 even. Beautiful watch. My God, my Calatrava, gorgeous watch. Looked like $1 million too. But I got too many warnings. Well, you got to be careful. You don't want to wear that just anywhere. And I don't like watches I can't wear just anywhere. My first watch was a Timex Mercury, mid-70s. There you go, Mike. Hater, the movements of Andreas Stellar are in this Streamliner perpetual calendar of H. Moser as well. Yeah, he's really something. He also built or helped build God, what's the name of that? This one watch company. Oh, I can't think of their name right away, but there was a company that makes pretty standard, ETA Solida kind of watches, but are interesting ones. I got the name of the company on the tip of my tongue. I can't think of it, but he built a chronograph for him, and I thought, wow, and it's, if I can think of it, I'll tell you, because I think it's one of those really great hidden deals because it has that in it. Maurice Lacroix. It's a Maurice Lacroix chronograph, and it's got a basically Andreas Stellar's movement in it. So that's Maurice Lacroix. Even if they have some of their other, ETAs or Solidas in them, they're still really good watches. They're extremely good watches. I have one with a Jacquet 736 in it. Anyway. Hey, ABNS 92, did Strella do something for Garrick? They may have. I have no idea. Streamliner Perpetual is probably my next Moser. What a great choice. There's the Moser that I like. It's their Pioneer with the retrograde seconds. That one I think is really cool. I like that a lot. Huh. That's interesting, Lee. Supposedly, dress watches are supposed to be smaller. If you want to take sort of the prototypical men's dress watch, you probably can go back to Pierre Arpray, who made the he made that Van Cleef and Pierre Arpels. He did that one with the for that gentleman's watch. It's thin and it's gold and yada yada yada, and they were relatively small though. But a big one, I like. I guess what's big varies on both on the size of your wrist and in my case also as I As I don't get younger, my eyesight could use a little help with a better size. Has anyone seen a Streamliner Purple? I'm considering, but I wonder if the tone is too bright. Boy, I think I saw it and I liked it. Of course, I like Mosers in general, so what do I know? My first mechanical watch was a Longines Admiral 5-star 14 karat. Whoa, 1976. Paid 89 bucks down from 400 bucks. Hudson Department Store had all the Longines mechanical watches in a bin like old records. I'll be darned. Back in 76, huh? Cool. Garrick in-house movements are in collaboration with Streller. Henceforth, they are UTG calibers. UT represents the, you're right, UHRTEIL. That's right. Good to know. Boy, that's very good to know about Garrick. Garrick had some stuff earlier that was sounded a little, I don't know if dicey is the right word, but more like really sort of blowing up something very little. But I'm glad to see they're sort of progressing along a good route. The guy that used to he used to put all kinds of stuff on the High Horology Lounge about Garrick watches, but the fact that they're in cahoots with Strellers, I think, speaks very, very well of them. Oh, with the dual small cam, I, I, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That's the one. That's the one that you can see. It's sort of you can see it through an open face. A Waltham. Oh, cool. Lee, that is a nice watch. I'd love to have a Waltham. When we go up to see the grandkids, we often stay at a hotel in Waltham, and they live over in Weston, which is just a town over. Um, but in Waltham, they still talk about it. They have this thing that has a big sign on it that says um, Waltham Watt City. Even though Waltham Factory is now a big apartment complex, but that they mentioned the Waltham watches. And hi, Abdul, how you doing? Just finished work and saw the live notification. Well, I try to help out by interrupting work. So, for a coffee break. Oh, geez. Yeah, Caesar. Yeah, Abdul straighten you out. Yes, yes, Lee. I still have that book that Dominic gave me on. I gotta pass it on to somebody else. Really a great book about how Waltham watches started off and how they were doing gangbusters and how they introduced all of these innovations and everything. And the Swiss were worried down to their lederhosen about Swiss watches being outdone by Waltham. Then Waltham, instead of going on with innovation, they hired this guy who basically was a glorified bean counter, and he wanted to see how cheaply they could be made. And so the prices and quality went down. They didn't, I mean, they didn't even have it tiered. They didn't have like, here are like COSC top watches, and then there's the ones that are at the lower level. They just kept on figuring out how to make more cheaper, and it didn't work. Whereas the Swiss, even though what the Swiss did, I think was really important. They took the culture. They included Swiss culture, how the Swiss were used to doing things, and included it in sort of industrialized production. And this meant that some of these little uh, cottage stuff, and most of it's, in fact, a lot of it still is done. Some guy's got a lathe in the back room and he cranks out parts of a watch. And they're still doing a lot of that today. And except the way that they had set it up, they used a mechanized kind of ideas that Waltham had done, and then they integrated it in with the Swiss way of doing things. Yeah. Okay. So what else is new? I'm trying to think. Oh, hey, yeah, I know. I was looking at that watch, the Eberhard, I think, Eberhard and Vianney Halter. I like Vianney Halter. I think he's a cool guy. And I met him at the Watch Time show a couple years ago. And at the time, he had done this sort of done a stacked dual time or something like that. It was really an interesting, oh no, it was a stacked tourbillon. And, but he did the prototype, but I never knew if it went into production or not. Yeah. I want to buy a chronograph from Hanhart. Wow, they're 30 minutes away from where I live. Are they the ones? There's a watch site called Every Watch, I think that's sort of interesting. Ah, they did timing watches. You know, it seems that at every sports event, it's either you see a Rolex or an Omega. I haven't seen a Hanhart, but that would be a good place to go to find one. WatcherCon sounds like a good place too. Oh, wow. Hi, MP. The Hanhart Boonsver Chrono is cool. Yeah, that's something. Maybe what I would like to see is if I can't make a deal with Christine Hutter about doing a group buy of the Panamatic. Wait, it's called not called Panamatic. It's called Hammermatic for a Hammermatic movement, which I really like a lot for automatic. Hey, killer! Wow. If you could get any 3 watches, but they would be, your only one forever, what would you get? That's a good question. Well, at least one of them would have to be a Larique, all right? Another would be Gerbail-Force, and the 3rd one would probably be hmm, boy, that's a hard one. Um, it'd be an FP Journe or it'd be a Moser. Um, I'm not sure. That's a very tough one. It'd be one of the young guys that have, there's some guys from France and Germany that are doing really neat watches too. That's a good question, Lee, but I'm just not sure. Wow, those are great ones, Abdul. Yeah, I was mentioning, Vianney Halter and the Eberhard, watch that he did with Eberhard. Um, I'm sort of 2 minds about these watches. On the one hand, there's not as much Vianney Halter as I'd like to see in the watch. And the price, if you're going to have it, you're buying the name, but not really anything substantive. I'm not too sure about that. It's got an ETA or something or a Salida movement in it. And for 5,000 bucks, I'm thinking, well, there's 2 ways to look at it. 5,000 for a watch with a Salida sounds like a lot. 5,000 for a Vianney Halter sounds like a deal. So I don't know. The same thing with the that outfit in Japan that did the Jaime Ahsoka watches, Konomo or somebody like that. They weren't. I mean, I think Jaime sort of like gave him a blessing or something like that, or the dial design or some little thing, and then they made a bunch of them. The thing sold out in 5 minutes after I mean, almost literally 5 minutes. So they went on sale in Japan and they were gone. I think they were about $1,500. 2 days later, they show up on eBay for 3,000. You know, I don't know. There are a lot of watches like that. On the one hand, I really like it because it sort of makes some of these top names accessible. But on the other hand, I don't know. What I'd like to see is more of sort of entry level kinds of things from these top watchmakers that aren't crazy high prices. I mean, like I said, FP Journe's that Chronomet Blue started off with 20,000. I remember, I think the lowest I ever saw one, this is pre-pandemic, was around 17,000. Now, then they went up over 100,000. They've gone and they haven't come back down. Hi, Truman. How you doing? So, anyways, I was just curious. What are your opinions on sort of top watchmakers partnering with something very affordable and with if they do something in the watch to make it more interesting? This is why I like my Chaumet. Yeah, it's got an ETA movement, but on top of that, there's this 2 Agones gears giving it a totally different character to it uh, by Agenor. And it's sort of like, well, they mix things in the movement. They have a ETA base, and then they have something on top that really does something horologically. And Anyway, just wanted to get your views on that. What do you think of those things? I mean, sort of taking the great watchmaker and a low price, and then trying to come up with a price right in the middle. Is that what do you think? On the one hand, I like it. It is access. On the other hand, I'm not too sure. Yeah, I agree, Brian. Also too, that watch is you could wear that to a really formal outfit. Show up with that kind of thing, black tie, even a white tie, and check out your dandy. There was um a term I came across something about the term dandy. It was there used to be something a Bro Brummel, and then a dandy came along as somebody who would get all dressed up and fancy and so forth for a guy, but it was more like somebody, oh, like a player. Someone's, hey player, how you doing? Or hey dude. It was more like along those lines rather than a big sissy, which is which it sounds like. I got a watch name like that, sissy. If they do something okay, but it's just got their name on it, no way, Jose. Yeah, it does. They'll have some style element. And looking at that regulator that they have with Vianney Halter and uh, Eberhard, yeah, that's doesn't look like your typical kind of watch style for a regulator or anything else for that matter of sort of in the lower thing. I don't know. I'm not sure if they really had a good case and a really good dial and everything and good hands. Nah, maybe I don't know. It's hard to say. It doesn't have to be all done by the rock star watchmaker. ETA is a good base to build on. Yeah, well, our Salida now, ETA is they don't give them away anymore. They don't even sell them away. Yeah, some of the other ones too. Um, a lot of people have talked about the German Dobel somebody or other, um, and those guys they sort of flowered after the reunification of Germany, and they had the more they worked on the ETA that was the basis of it, the less it looked like an ETA. And some of the ones have an ETA in it, but they've done so much stuff to it. It's something that ETA just would never be able to do on its own. And so then you sort of turn the page because you've got something a little different there. Um, it doesn't have to be, radically different, but something about it that's different. Yeah, I'm sort of like wondering, well, what would that be sort of a fun watch to have? Oh, or like the Mad watches that MB&F has, and then they did the affordable ones that were the Mad Red, and I guess they had some other colors and stuff. Really an interesting watch. The time on that watch is on the side of the watch, and at the top is some kaleidoscope show. Interesting kind of stuff they have with that. Yeah, that's right, Di. Yeah, Dornbluth and Son. That's who I was trying to think of. Oh, the Dandy Metrodome. Good grief, hater. If you could only find one, those things are rare as hen's teeth. It's funny, they're a very rare one, but I don't know if they bring in a lot of, like somebody's going to pay a lot for one. That's sort of the irony there. You have something rare, but people, yeah, so what? Just rare. On the other hand, certain ones I've seen that I know aren't rare, but people just like and are willing to pay a fortune for. No, 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 no. That's the thing about that one, Truman, about the Elegante. That's okay. It, on the one hand, it's a traditional quartz watch. It even runs on a battery. But the way that FP Journe made it was that it had something like a 50-year battery life. But the big thing about that watch isn't the fact that it's quartz. It's the fact that there's a mechanical device that once you're not wearing it stops, and then it puts the quartz into this low, low, low state that uses hardly any battery power, but it uses enough battery power to keep the time, but not in the hands. And so when you pull it up in the morning, all the hands go. The Elegante is sort of one of those ones that's piece of really interesting horology, even though there's a quartz movement. The spring drive by Seiko, our Grand Seiko, whoever they did it, that's another interesting one. But to me, that comes a little out of, wow, that's dynamite horology behind to simply provide an electrical current that does the same thing as a $10 quartz watch. Whereas the Elegante, not only was the movement built from top to bottom by FP Journe, but it has this other feature in it. It's really a double kind of thing. One, keeping the time while it's in this low mode, plus the fact that it turns it off. Yeah. So anyway, Truman, I can understand that. I like Shaken Joker dish. Yeah, I like Shaken also. I like his minion though. I'm going to get a yellow minion from him. From the dictionary, dandy, late 18th century, perhaps a shortened version of jack-a-dandy. Caesar got my Santos as only watch for a trip, and I can get it to work. Santos, I like the Santos, the Cartier. I what kind of do they have different kinds of movements in the Santos? They have like the what they're called Balloon Blue or Balloon Blue. That one is like hugely popular for women, and they have it in quartz, and then they have it in an automatic, and they may have different versions in both of those levers. I, what about the Santos? Does that have the same kind of options, or is it all pretty much the same Cartier movement? Hi, James. How you doing? Here's another watch that I wish I had gotten a while back. I always liked. There's familiar with the Cartier Crash, but there was another one that was trying to think the name of it. It was like the Crash, but it looked like a piece of tinfoil you had scrunched, or somebody had run over a watch, and all the funky looking thing perfectly worked. I was in New York a number of years ago, and I asked him about that. And at the time, it was 40,000. Now you can't, you know, you, 40,000 is a lot of money, but man, I tell you what, they're worth now is way up there because they didn't make that many. Even the crash at the time, I think was about 15, 20, something like that. You never know. I'm going on a week trip thinking about taking 5 affordable watches for the peace of mind. What are you doing with the ones you're leaving at home? And what's the address of your home, Abdul? Why go into a bank vault if I'm gone for any amount of time? I would no, go ahead and get a spring drive. While you're at it, why don't you get either a spring drive or spend $10 and get a quartz. It's got a battery in it. You don't have to worry about all that complicated stuff that's going on, Lee. I wouldn't give you a hard time about it. Yeah, Mike, mine too. Bank vault is the way to go. You know something? On my last trip, we sort of were stuck after a trip in 2019 when we went on a cruise and went up to Dresden and met up with Rolf Lang. We hadn't been anywhere. I mean, just sort of got stuck, and so then we went to the Grand Prix in Geneva, and I talked to this guy who goes to a lot of those things, and I asked him, I said, "How many watches do you take?" He said, "Just take one. You won't. I mean, there's no hassle going through customs or anything else. You got it on your wrist, no sweat." And I usually like to take like 3 watches. I don't know why, but I just maybe 4. Three in the roll, and then one on your wrist. But he says, "Man, it's just not worth it." And here's the funny thing: when I entered into Switzerland, they didn't ask me anything about watches that I had. When I left, they didn't ask me anything about watches when I had. When I got back, they didn't even have me go through customs. I just went there and rolled my suitcase and said, "Do you want to look into it? You want it? Not just out of here." Really a funny thing. It's sort of like I don't know why. He says, we you you old guys, we don't even bother with you." I have no idea. You guys say going through customs, have any of you come back recently through US customs that they didn't check anything, or did they check stuff? Abu Dhabi, you can leave it in the living room and don't even lock the door. Yeah. Yeah, what? They catch you or chop your hand off or something, I think. Or you can I've got a feeling where I live in my particular neighborhood, I could leave it, put a sign up on the door saying, "See you guys in 3 weeks. We're on vacation," and nothing would happen. That's just the nature of my neighborhood. Um, I but I don't wanna tempt fate. Caesar, I got invited to visit Moser. Any suggestions? Enjoy yourself. That would be a really nice visit going to Moser. That'd be fun. Um, can't imagine that it not being anything but a great visit. Oh, wow. Thanks, Truman. I didn't know about that. The original Pasha was designed by Gerald Genta. It's good to know. Abdul, is he? My solar watch or my Casio would be a perfect wear. Yeah, and forget about Yeah. That's the only thing that I'm concerned about. I don't wanna wear a watch that somebody sees the watch and goes, "There's a victim." And the irony is a lot of the watches I have, watch thieves wouldn't know from Adam's odd ox. Like, the one I took was my Van Cleef& Arpels, because it had the movement by Agenor in it. And, I just thought, well, that'd be a polite thing to do, and it was dual time and so forth. But, um, I don't think most people would know that watch. On the other hand, I could wear a used Rolex and get rolled, mugged, and get a knot on my head. David, I would argue that the spring drive is much more, mechanical than elegante. Yeah, I see your point, David. That you could argue that. It much more mechanical because they have the mechanics of it from wearing it, and so forth. It is, but what it is, to me, it's a lot of effort to do what a little battery could probably do better. But I like the idea, the concept, though, of it, and I admire it. The Japanese did some fantastic micro mechanical work on that to get it to working right. So even though I don't know, that's a good argument. Not the US, but I always carry a watch strap tool. Oh, a spring bar tool, yeah. And I get away, always get asked about it, and they understand why I have a couple of watches. Ha, man, I like it. I like it when they don't ask me anything. Oh, phew, they passed up those gold bars I was smuggling in. Yeah. Yeah, the new fake Rolexes, of course, look so much like a Rolex that you might get mugged for the wrong thing. Hey, killer, have you seen, the pieces from a micro brand, uh, Echo Neutra? No, I haven't. They have some cool, Cartier tank square watches running, workhorse ETAs. Lee, Moser should yeah, they yeah, not many people have, been telling about the quality. You know why, Lee? It was at one time about, good grief, God, 10 years ago, you could get a what were called, the Henry double hairspring, which I got, and the May2 or so. They had these stupid names. They had the Mayu and the Montu, something like that for the names of them. Um, but I tell you, I don't know if Moser likes me or not because I don't buy the new ones. Because I like the old ones so much. They're both hand wound, which I like. They're both 18,000 semi oscillations per hour, which I like. They're both gold, one white, one yellow. I think that's, it was sort of, there was a period in there uh, that even though they didn't sell very well, they were really good watches. These are some of the early things that precision, what do they call precision engineering did for them. That they came in with sort of like almost a pair. Some member of the Moser family and these other guys started it, and they had along somehow with precision engineering. And so they made, I think they only had about 3 watches, the May 2 and the Band 2 or whatever it's called. Then they had the double hairspring. They may have had some other ones, but those were the early ones. They didn't do well at all. But the horology was so good that anybody who bothered to look at it would realize that they were really, really great watches. Well, now they're all dried up. They're gone, and you can't get them anymore, or you barely get them anymore. There was a place in Singapore, I think. It was either Singapore or Kuala Lumpur. Great place, had these great deals on them, and they're all gone. So I think any love that Moser might have for me, it's like, I wish that guy would shut up and talk about some of the new stuff we got, which I do like too. Hey, MP, Sin is under the radar. Actually, all Flieger. Yes, Sin. There's a lot of talk about Sin, but one thing I wish Sin would do was, it's about time that more German companies, sort of wean themselves from Salida ETA movements. There's still the majority of German watches sold today have Swiss movements. Not Lange, not Langenheim, not Sadoki, but Kadoki, and not Moritz Grossmann. But most of the other ones do. I mean, when you just take sheer volume, you have it. Hey, Rancher. James, I bought a Tissot C-Star Powermatic. I hear that it's got plastic pieces. I heard a disposable movement. I don't know, the Powermatic 80. They have different versions of the Powermatic 80, including ones with that they didn't put the silicone hairsprings in. So I don't know about the plastic parts. So if they put them in, it was probably for sort of putting in a non-magnetic part, would be my guess, as opposed to saving money. I don't know. Oh no, Mike. What kind of watch does Luigi wear? A mask watch, Rancher. One with always a mask on it. Yes, some of them do have the silicone hairspring MP, but other ones don't. I don't know what they're doing. They somehow are trying to convince people that the silicone hairspring is better, and so they charge more for the ones with the silicone hairspring. The thing I like about it, they're still running them, I think, at 3 hertz instead of 4 hertz, which I think is a good thing. Maybe not common knowledge in the States, but Moser has been quite known in Central Europe for a while. Do you have a Truman? Did you get one? Yeah, you can get some good deals from Japan. Hi, Damon. My Moser Vanta Black has a double hairspring. Yeah, God, I'll tell you, that Vanta Black is just an amazing watch. That would be a perfect watch for a New Yorker. The wearing black is that sort of the only thing they want is a darker shade of black, and Vanta Black would really hit that. Love that watch. That's one of those watches that you can just It's almost spooky. It's just really a beautiful watch. So I love my Sin 104. Gave it up for Air Force pilot's son. Oh, well, that makes sense because they do make a lot of Fliegers, Lee. Don't get indoxinated. Oh, hey, I love Doxes, Rancher. Everybody loves Doxes, those orange Doxes. Hey, Killer, what do you got? Powermatic 80s pre-silicon are some of my favorite watches. Oh, okay. And that'd been for low for older models. Cool. Hi, Idle Time. Yeah. Um, yes. The Nomos, yes. Hanhart, uh, Geo. Yes and no. Geo, unfortunately, is owned by Swatch. Ruin a watch. But I like that Glass Hood Originals. You know, the Glass Hood Original, the Pano Inverse, beautiful watch, no silicone on that baby. That's a nice one. Yes, you're right, David. The cheaper Powermatics do have them. They like, well, we're going to give you one that's that you're not going to find in a smartwatch. I like that. Also, the way they got it to run for the 80 hours is that they lowered the frequency from 4 hertz to 3 hertz. Well, I like 3 hertz better. So, of course, the motive for lowering it isn't always one I would admire. Oh, do they? I didn't know that. 20% discount at the dealer in Abu Dhabi. You're welcome. Thank you very much. EU buyers pay 19% VAT entry. God. Yeah, maybe that's why they give them 20% discount. You gotta pay that again when you go home with that. Alas, 20% off. Dollars is still dollars, yeah. Still money is money. Truman, here's what I think I know. I think a lot of these watches that in fact, I know it for a fact. Here you've got H. Moser via uh, uh, perfection engineering, precision engineering. They sell something like 80,000, 100,000 Strawman hairsprings, whereas the number of Moser watches they sell every year is what, 3 or 4,000 maybe not that much. But 100,000 of the Strawman hairsprings is what I think one of the major strength that they have. And I guess if the split keeps on going uh, between silicon and transitional metals, you know, you're sort of waving goodbye. Take a hanky and wave goodbye to Patek Philippe and some of these other ones. Here, I'll take one of my bye guys. Oh, I'm terrible. Okay, what else you guys have? Hi, TD. Any under the radar great watches less than 15,000? Oh, I tell you, early on, TD, today, if you go to um, Chrono 24, I had to think for a while. If you go to Chrono 24 and go to Chaumet, you'll find a Chaumet dandy uh, with a metal bracelet and a date window, which is it's a little rare version of that. That would be one to get, and that's way under 1,000, way under 15,000 too. Hi, Jose. How you doing? Hi, Benjamin. I've been eyeing some vintage Mosers. Do any of you know a good resource I can refer to for more info? How vintage are you talking about? There's some from the 90s that I wouldn't touch, but there was a point. Take a look at the history of Moser, Benjamin, and look where sort of this where Moser was bought by a group that included one of the original Moser families that came with precision engineering, or they bought precision engineering and they started doing it. This is before the Malin family bought it. Now, the Malin family brought in some wonderful stuff. I mean, fantastic stuff, but it's different fantastic than what had been brought in before, which is really so that would be what I look at. But stuff from the 90s and before the sort of the penultimate takeover of Moser is anything before that, not much to it. Zeitwinkel, yeah. And I probably is Zeitwinkel or something like that. Can we please stop talking about Moser? Haven't got all I want yet. Nobody has. Hey Lee, I'm a bipolar hairspring owner. Yeah, you can leave off the second phrase. Leave off the hairspring owner part. Jose, getting back on the horse. Got new watches, so all good. That's great. 1950 and 1960s Moser. Saw a couple field watches in the 40s. I can't. I don't know what they were doing then. Benjamin, that I don't know anything about those. It's sort of like they started revival was right around the beginning of the 21st century, which is now what 20 almost 25 years ago. It's really funny to think about it. That's okay. You can take your hairsprings and off off on the yellow brick road with you, Caesar. Where'd Rancher go? Why ask? Lee, you shouldn't ask where Rancher is. Rancher doesn't know where he went. Whoops. Yeah, you got a rabbit hole. That's a fun rabbit hole, though, Benjamin. It's all of these things are so interesting that I think that makes watch collection interesting. Finding different rabbit holes to go find out what you can. One there's sort of the BVL, I think 119, the one that they have with the Bulgari, what's that called? The Bulgari Octo Roma, which is to me is sort of like one of the ultimate watch deals around. But I found out that the BVL movements are made by Calypso, which is sort of interesting. Um, that is a watch movement maker that I'm trying to decide on right now. They're sort of like sort of a upscale low down. How's that? Um, there would be an upper scale of a a notch above a ETA Salida, but not in sort of some of the more not up there with, what you find with Vacheron Constantin or some of the movements from the independents. I don't know. Certainly not AP either. And which rabbit hole can you find money? I know lots of them where you can lose money or spend money, Truman. I don't know where you can make money. Upscale, low down. Perfect one. Well, look, guys, I tell you, we've been going on for quite a while. I better sign off before I get in serious trouble. Anyway, thank you all for joining this chat that goes anywhere. Take care.